Farming and tourist towns are fearing a potential exodus of backpackers as visa costs soar to $640. The $130 increase comes as the federal government also considers placing one-year limits on working holidaymaker visas. Regional and rural residents fear losing backpackers will contribute to labour shortages, delivering a major blow to the local industries. The opposition is warning changing the visa rules could devastate regional economies. Joining me now live is National Farmers Federation General Manager of Corporate Affairs, Charles Thomas. Charles, appreciate your time. Is the prospect of a backpacker exodus a real threat?
It's incredibly disturbing. Thanks for having me on. The backpackers play an important part of the regional communities right across Australia, not just in agriculture, but in tourism, in hospitality. And the changes that are being proposed here to take effect from this Saturday would create yet another barrier to people coming and working in regional Australia.
So the cost is going up, but also visa numbers are set to be cut by 30% as well from July. So what does this mean for farmers?
Well, accessing workers is one of the key challenges that farmers right across the country are facing right now. It's incredibly challenging to be able to plant crops and plan ahead for the future seasons when we just don't know that we're going to have the workers available to harvest them. So the increasing fees creates just one more disincentive for people to come and work, holiday and work in Australia and take part in some of the specified work in regional communities. And it's a death by a thousand cuts because you've got this increasing fee, which will come into effect as of Saturday, which puts us in a hugely disadvantaged position compared to some other countries overseas where people have the choice to go and work as well. So the $130 increase may not sound like a huge amount, but you put that on top of more expensive flights to come and visit Australia. And the fact that that fee in total is now 2 to 3 times what people are paying in equivalent countries like New Zealand, Canada, Germany. It really adds up to a big blow to regional communities across Australia. The other thing to take into account here is what's going to happen with the British backpackers. So at the moment, 22% of the backpackers that we have here in the country are from the UK. Under the UK Free Trade Agreement, as of 1 July 2024, those backpackers will be able to get an extension to their working holidaymaker visa without having to do any of the specified work that currently is required of backpackers from other countries. So you add all of these things up and it's really becoming a diabolical situation for farmers who are struggling to get workers, and these backpackers are a critical part of the seasonal workforce.
Does it make Australia less competitive? Because it also comes off the back, of course, of the border being closed for so long during COVID. So it wasn't attracting people here in the first place. So what does it mean overall for Australia?
Well, and that's what's so disappointing about this is that we have just seen backpacker numbers start to get back to where they were pre-COVID. And that's been a really challenging period for farmers and for regional communities more broadly. And so to see these sort of measures come into place now, just as we're starting to get back on our feet to some degree, and effectively turning people away, making it more difficult to come here and holiday and work in Australia, the timing just could not be worse. And I think people might be aware of changes happening to the Pacific Scheme, another key source of labour for Australian farmers, which has made it more difficult for farmers to participate in that program, bringing people in from the Pacific for some of this temporary work. So it really is a death by a thousand cuts to the agricultural workforce, and it's a problem that's been in play here in Australia for many, many years. It was a problem pre-COVID, it was worsened through the pandemic, and now we're seeing a real lack of a clear plan to bring people in and make Australia an attractive place to come and spend time and work in regional communities.
What is the situation like out there on farms at the moment? How bad are these workforce shortages?
Look, they have improved somewhat with the return of the backpackers, but it is still diabolical. We've got plenty of reports each day coming in from our members, telling us that they're choosing not to plant crops because they just don't know whether or not they'll have the workforce available at the end of the season to harvest them. And we've got right through the supply chain similar issues. We estimate there are 172,000 vacancies across the food and fibre supply chain. We're seeing industries like meat processing operating at about 60% capacity of what they could be producing. So the overall productivity and economic impacts for the country are significant, and it's something this government needs to look at more closely.
You mentioned the UK and Australia free trade agreement, and it's now been almost 1 month since the start of that. Have you seen the benefits so far?
Look, these things take time, but certainly industries like sugar, we've seen real appetite from the UK sugar processors over there to access Australian sugarcane. So it is fantastic. It's great to see all of these benefits come through in the trade sense, but the trade-off of this agreement always was that there was going to be a significant impact on the agricultural workforce as a result of the visa changes negotiated through that agreement. So at the time, we had the former government step up and promise to deliver an ag visa, which was meant to increase our available workforce to make up some of that shortfall. At the moment, though, what we're not seeing from this government is an equivalent plan to bring people into the country to help us produce what we can, because it's all very good and well to have these free trade agreements, but if we don't have product to export, then they're good for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Thomas, it's a difficult situation. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.